Okay, I'm checking the comments on my video. Admittedly, this is a video for a deck that had a lot of rares. And Azerati says, man, my only issues with Arena is if you take a break, you're so far behind card-wise and the amount of rares needed for good decks. Okay? Azerati, this one goes out to you. Today we have a deck with just 10 rares, very easy to put together, either on Arena or in paper, and it can win. Let's go. Welcome to the Attic Manadad here. It's the channel where we explore what's fun in Magic, mostly on Arena. On Tuesdays, we explore the greatest tribes or types in Magic. Typal Tuesdays. Typal Tuesdays it is. This is a very special one. It's a budget deck. It's a competitive deck. It's a Typal deck. It's hitting all the boxes. Let's take a look at this. Okay, now, we are going by my very strict definition of a budget deck, which means 10 rares, which means I'm pretty restricted here because if you're playing skeletons, you know you want 4 Corpses of the Lost. Skeletons +1/+0, haste, make a 2/2, and you can make it bounce it back to your hand if you get a descend trigger. We also know that we're probably going to want at least a couple case of the stash skeletons. In this case, I'm going with 4 of them, okay? So there's our 2-drop, there's our 3-drop. That doesn't leave us many rares for a 1-drop. We're going with 2 Tiny Bones. I'll have some ideas in the sideboard here at the end of the deck tech. We can talk about if you have more rares, you can build that. But everything else is common or uncommon. Just 20 swamps, not even getting fancy with the mana base. You could put in, like, you know, some stuff, some colorless lands that do some things. You don't have to. You can just go 20 swamps. That's what we're doing. We've got Cult Conscript. This is just a 2/1 that comes into play tap for 1 mana, but it is a skeleton. Just 2 of those, because I'm going with 4 of the Forsaken Miner. You have a better chance of triggering. Actually, this deck as built, you have 0 chance of triggering Cult Conscript, because we have no non-skeleton creatures in the whole deck, token or otherwise. Forsaken Miner is a 2/2. Doesn't block, however. If you commit a crime, you can pay a black, and if you do, it comes back to the battlefield. So that, with Tiny Bones, are our 1-drop skeletons. But how are we going to, like, okay, you've seen skeleton deck before. Here's the deal. I was getting beat by the discard decks and the skeleton decks, and I said, okay, what if I put them together? Discard deck, don't have to play any rares in the discard deck. You've got Bandit's Talent, you know, Duress. That's about as cheap as a card can get. They printed this how many times? You got that Hopeless Nightmare. You know it, you hate it. So we have a whole discard deck within the skeleton deck. And on top of that, we still have room for removal. Going heavy on cut down because we're in best of 1. We've also got a little bit of a toolbox in terms of the 2 mana removal. 1 Anoint with Affliction. 1 Feed the Swarm that can get rid of enchantments, which, as you know, are pretty bad. 1 Go for the Throat. 2 Sheoldred's Edicts. Those can take out Planeswalkers, which may be relevant. 3 Nowhere to Runs. The reason we can do a toolbox is because case of the stash skeleton. It's not that uncommon playing this deck. When I was testing it out, you get the solved case, so you can pay 2 mana and go get whatever you want. In some cases, you need the removal to get rid of whatever, an enchantment, a creature with hexproof, what have you. That's what you can do it for. Curve topping out at 3. We really don't need that many lands. All right, let's take a look at the sideboard, then we'll jump into the matches. I think you'll enjoy the gameplay on this. It's depending on what you draw. Is it more discard? Is it more skellies? You could play very differently with this deck. So, if you do have more rares, you can throw in some Death Barons. You can make it a little bit heavier on the thing. If you have Death Baron, all of a sudden the Cult Conscripts get turned on. So that's something to keep in mind with the Death Baron. I have seen skeleton decks running Patchwork Banner. This is not a rare. If you don't have enough rares to do Corpses of the Lost, Patchwork Banner does a decent impression. The haste is pretty darn good on this, and the ability to replay it. But again, if you're on a budget, there's ways to play this deck, build up, win some games on the ladder, rank up, get some packs, get some wild cards, and build up this deck as you go. You can do fun stuff like Geese of the Hellraiser if you really do want to go for a higher, mana cost. You're going to need to put in more swamps if you want to run Gisa. You can do that. Soulstone Sanctuary becomes all creature types, so don't sleep on that. That can also be a skeleton, and that can win out of nowhere with Corpses of the Lost. I would probably be running at least 2 of those if I wasn't trying to keep this down in rares. But otherwise, I wouldn't change that much about this deck. This has been really working for me, so I hope it's going to work as I record. Let's take a look at this deck in action.
Hey, it's me, Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Actually, haunting and overlording are just my hobbies. My day job is managing the YouTube algorithm. I try to make sure lots of negative, conspiracy-laden clickbait shows up in your feed. You know, nightmare fuel. Whatever you do, don't like, comment, or elder gods forbid, subscribe to a channel like this one, okay? We don't need your feed filled up with people who genuinely enjoy playing Magic like this so-called Manadad. He puts deck lists and other useful links in the description. He even shows real win rate stats at the end of the videos. Yikes. Clicking on positive, helpful videos takes away from the time I could be spending haunting woods or putting my friend Writhing Chrysalis into draft boosters. But you don't have to take it from me. 9 out of 10 players who want to unban grief agree. Now let's see. What is your racist uncle clicking on today? He has impeccable taste. Let me send some of those videos your way.
And I do apologize. I know my voice is not the usual. I've been sick this week. My daughters keep just bringing home crap from their schools. Daycare. First grade. Just little petri dishes. Opponent goes first, which is not great, but we do have a 1-2-3 curve. That's pretty much a snap keep here. No interaction. We're just full-on skeleton for this. Let's see what opponent's playing. How that matches up with opponent. They got a Fabled Passage, so it's tap land off the bat. It's probably okay for us. They go get an island. Interesting. Alright, let's go with the Corsican Miner. And is this just the usual blue-black Dimir bounce deck? Looks like it. Tough matchup. This is the top deck currently in the format. And they're ready for an aggro deck, it looks like. Well, we could try Bandits Talenting. I think we're just going to keep on the Skeleton aggro plan for now. Maybe we can get him down to a few cards in hand. Problem is, their bounce stuff really hits our tokens. It becomes removal for our tokens, so that's not great. Make it a big blocker, but they're not using it to block, so that's cool. And yeah, let's schmack in for 6. See if we can win this race. Next turn we can Corpse again and Cult Conscript, although this does enter tapped. Hopeless Nightmare. Huh. I wonder if we just ditch the swamp? How important is it? I guess we'll ditch the talent. We're just all in. This deck doesn't run board wipes. And they're missing a land drop, it looks like. Okay, well, now we wish we ditched a land, but so it goes. For 12, they're down to 2. Best deck in the format, what you got? Did I speak too soon about the no board wipes? Yeah, Fear of Isolation, they're going to bounce that, they're going to replay it. And they've got 3 blockers, but that's not going to save them. And the Skellies take it from the best deck. I need a good party.
That was remarkable. I'm still just running that sequence through my mind. It happened really quickly. Nothing matches that. I can hardly believe it.
Okay. We go first. Oh, or opponent couldn't be patient while we looked at our hand. Up against Mochi. Mochis. What I say too often I say that. As you can probably tell. Well, it looks we're kind of like on the discard and removal plan here. We won't have a creature till turn 3 at the earliest, well, unless we draw into one. Let's see what we got. Alright. This darn abhorrent Oculus deck. Are we more worried about the counter spells or just... So if we hit them with the Hopeless Nightmare, they're going to discard the Oculus. They'll be happy to do that. So what do we want to hit? I guess Moment of Truth. Turn 1, they'll sleight of hand. We can hold up, go for the throat to remove an Oculus. Did 1 become available? Really hoping to draw that 3rd land. They have land drop number 2. I don't know why they're not playing it yet. Don't seem to have a way to get the Oculus into the graveyard. Alright, well, we'll just case in the Stash Skeleton. They can just counterspell that if they want. They don't care to. Probably because they can just bounce this guy. Two instants and sorceries in the graveyard. So the cutdown's not going to do anything against that Djinn if they have it. They'll have 3 cards we don't know about. Surveils into the graveyard. They do. It's interesting because that would be their discard. And Tiny Bones will definitely... Tiny Bones will definitely draw removal. Let's see if the 2/1 does. Nothing. Well... Let's play Tiny Bones. The question is, do we Hopeless Nightmare? For the Phantom Interference. I don't think Cutdown's going to do much. If we get him to play out the Oculus... then we can hit it. Yep, there it is. See what's going on. They have another counter spell. If they do, we might be in trouble. They did have another counter spell. Bummer. That did not go the way I wanted it to. Now we got enough cutdowns to get rid of some 2/2s, but yeah, just keep drawing land, opponent. That's good. We need removal for this Oculus. We can't race him from this position. Not hitting the land drops is troublesome. Okay, and they were able to hard cast another one. That is probably the ball game. Just want to see what I'm going to draw. But I should probably just scoop. Forsaken Miner ain't going to do it. All right. We're going first. We've got a 1, we got a 2, we got a 3. Love it. Up against Natural Science. Hate to beat Science. But, well, could just hold up Go for the Throat. I think we do. Either play a mouse that we'd rather kill with it, or a pump spell. Think we have nothing. We go for the shock. Okay. Take 4. Gonna be an interesting race here. They're going to be hitting us real hard next turn. But we can kind of drain them out if we run them out of ammo here. Okay. Or they could just scoop because they got nothing. Go Skeleton. Okay. This is my last game no matter what. I have limited time today to record. But I wanted to show you guys this deck. I actually had a different deck lined up that I wanted to do. I wanted to do Pirates for Tribal Tuesday. Maybe I still will one day. I have a cool Pirates deck. I don't think anybody has seen anything like it. It might be better once Ether Drift comes out, though, so maybe it's better if I wait. And we go first. We got 1s and 2s. The opponent takes a mulligan. So turn 2, either cut down Forsaken Miner or Curse of the Statue Skeleton. Probably worth doing a cut down. Or they get too crazy with that. We'll take 1 damage. Sometimes these red decks too, like, especially if this is the Gruul deck, you remove enough of their creatures. They got nothing. You can't block. Okay, so we do manage to hit our 3-drop. I guess we'll risk leaving ourselves open to a big hit from the Emberheart Challenger because this is a pretty big hit already. And they hit the mountain. Okay. What you got, opponent? Because I'm feeling pretty good sitting with nowhere to run. We could also add 3 power. 3-1 Menace to the board here. Okay, they're just adding creatures. And they're hanging back. And we got the Tiny Bee. I think let's see. We don't quite win, right? Let's get rid of the Emberheart Challenger. Force a block. And they'd rather do that than trade with the Pickpocket. Interesting. Can't do anything with that. But I think this should be the win. It is indeed. Wait.
That was remarkable. I'm still just running that sequence through my mind. It happened really quickly. Nothing matches that. I can hardly believe it.
Stick around for the win rate stats. Okay, so how'd we do? Well, no fooling around other than I did leave it in so you could see it. Somebody scooped to us and we had like a 4-land hand. We might not have won that game. So you can weigh that how you want. But I don't have a lot of time to record a video. I promised myself it was going to be 5 games regardless before the thing started. And so 80% win rate or maybe 75% win rate if you want to call it a 3-1 or maybe a 60% win rate, which is still phenomenal. Best win rate, up with the best win rates in the format. Of course, it's a small sample size, so take from that what you will. But I think if you want, this was at Platinum. If you want proof, 10 rare deck that can compete. We beat the best deck in the format. We beat a bunch of mono red decks. We did not win against the blue-white Oculus deck, but you know it's popular, but it's not that popular. I think with the right draw, you know, if we get the Anoint with Affliction in hand and we exile the Oculus and they don't get a second one, it's a different game. It's definitely a winnable matchup. It's not like you have to just scoop to them. In terms of the deck, 20 lands has been working pretty well for me. I tried a version with 21 lands when I was testing it out. You really don't want to flood out, especially when you're topping out at 3 mana. You did see we got stuck on 2 mana sometimes. It might be somebody who's good at math can figure out maybe 21 lands gets you to 3 mana more consistently without going too much into flood territory. That's the question. The removal, we didn't get to see Shieldred's Edict. I was doing a version where I ran 3 of these, and it was useful against Planeswalkers. There's some Lilianas out there. You could run Liliana in this deck. I didn't include that in the quote-unquote sideboard, the suggestion sideboard, but that's a possibility. Feed the Swarm, I don't know if it's worth it. There are a lot of threatening enchantments right now in the format. I think soon there are going to be a lot of threatening artifacts. Black doesn't have a great way of dealing with either other than just player removal, and that's what our guys are for, so you could go up more Skellies just and less discard. You know, I think this is a good balance. This is a balance that's working for me, but it's going to depend on the meta. You might just decide to lose the discard stuff altogether. Just go with removal and more Skellies and just try and be like Skelly aggro full on. The nice thing is the Bandit's talents. We didn't get to see these in action, but when you do stall out and you get one of these and you add, you know, you're dealing 2 damage every turn with it. We rarely get it up to level 3, but level 2 is very common, very easy to get it up to. It's a great way to use up extra mana too, as a mana sink when you flood out. So the Bandit's talents, I think, really give this deck a lot of staying power. And when you back it up with some other other discard plus removal, it's a pretty solid package. That's my opinion. You leave your opinion in the comments. Thanks for joining me in the attic. I've been Manadad, reminding you Magic is a game so fun. Sorry about my voice. Check out some other budget videos linked over here. If this is not your jam, then certainly some of these other ones are. And I've found several. Listen, if you're the guy who's leaving the comments saying it's too hard to catch up, I've made several in just this standard that I've gotten high win rates with that are budget. Okay? So I don't want to hear excuses, you know? You can play Magic. You can play with 4 rares. You can build this deck with 4 rares and then just build it up as you go. Because you don't, you know, in the bronze tier. Anyways, this has been Manadad, reminding you Magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it. Adios.